Today, I want to take you to one of the darkest days in human history. A day where fathers left their homes in the morning and never came back. A day where pregnant women were cut open in the streets, where children were killed in front of their parents, where entire villages were marched into a desert and told to walk until they died. 1.5 million people. Not soldiers that go and die on a battlefield. Families, grandmothers, babies, poets, farmers. 1.5 million lives erased. 1.5 million futures that will never exist. 1.5 million dreams that never got the chance to become real. Their crime was believing in a God who sent his son Jesus Christ to die for our sins. 1.5 million were ruthlessly slaughtered because they would not renounce their faith in Christ. And you've probably never heard about it. Today, I want to share with you about the Armenian Genocide, the first genocide of the modern age. The one that taught the world they could look away. The one Hitler studied before designing the Holocaust and then asked his generals, who after all speaks today of the massacre of the Armenian people. He was betting that you would never watch this video. Before I take you into the darkness, I need you to understand that what was destroyed wasn't just some unknown tribe in a forgotten corner of the world. Armenia is one of the oldest civilizations on earth, the first nation to accept Christ and become the first Christian nation in the world in the year 301 AD. 2 million Armenians living in the Ottoman Empire had been there for thousands of years. The empire's own word for them, the loyal millet, the faithful community. Faithful. 3 men in the government wanted a radically pure Turkish state. The Armenians, Christians, educated living on the land they needed were in the way. They did not want Christians living near them. World War I gave them the perfect opportunity. The countries that might have intervened were too busy killing each other, and nobody was watching. And the goal wasn't just to defeat the Armenians. It wasn't to push them out. The goal was to erase them so completely that the only Armenian left on earth will be kept in a museum, a specimen, a curiosity behind glass. That was the vision. Total extinction, with one survivor left alive so the world could see what an Armenian used to look like. The only way you would survive this massacre was by denying your faith in Jesus Christ and changing your last name. But if you did not deny Jesus Christ, then you would be killed. This isn't a metaphor. This was reality, and it came in 3 waves. Wave 1, April 24, 1915. Police round up 235 Armenian intellectuals in Constantinople, then more. Eventually, a combination of 2,300, the poets, the priests, the doctors, the lawyers, the composers, the brains of a civilization were removed in a single night. One was a man named Gomitas. He'd spent his life collecting over 3,000 Armenian folk songs, preserving the sound of a people that have been living for thousands of years. He was able to escape, but what he witnessed destroyed him. He spent the last 20 years of his life in a psychiatric hospital in Paris, never composed again. They didn't kill his body, they killed the thing that made him who he was. Wave 2, 60,000 Armenian men in the Ottoman Empire serving their own country, pulled from their units, stripped of weapons, marched into fields in groups of 50, shot and killed. The men that were there to protect this group of people were now dead. Wave 3, everyone else that's left. 1.2 million people, mostly women, children, and elderly, because the men were already dead, forced on death marches into the Syrian desert. No food, no water. The government had emptied its prisons, released over 10,000 convicted murderers, rapists, armed them, and turned them into killing squads along the routes to kill these innocent people. It was so ruthless what they tried to do that you would only be able to accomplish it with people that were prisoners, that had already killed. They had no conviction left in them. The governor of one of the provinces nailed horseshoes to his victims' feet. The road ended at a place called Deir ez-Zor, camps in the open desert. When a local governor tried to protect 30,000 deportees, he was replaced by someone who wouldn't. And I don't want to tell you what happened to that governor. A journalist who visited the mass graves decades later said, the ground was still sinking. So many bodies underneath that the earth itself was caving in. They kept records. Their own records showed the Armenian population dropping from 1.26 million to 284,000 by 1923. More than 90% of Armenians were gone from lands they inhabited for thousands of years. 1.5 million dead. The American ambassador saw it, confronted the man running it, asked why the women and children. What did they respond? The innocent of today will be the guilty of tomorrow. And the ambassador resigned. Wrote that in the entire history of the human race, nothing this horrible had ever happened. And the world moved on. Turkey, the successor state, denies the genocide to this day. Not the dead, they denied the word. They've put their own citizens on trial for saying it. And the United States didn't recognize it until 2021. And it's probably a little too late. The United Kingdom still hasn't. 100 years of silence. Every year of that silence taught every future dictator the same lesson. You can get away with it, but the killers made a miscalculation, a fatal one. They wanted to leave one Armenian alive in a museum behind a glass. They did not account for the fighting spirit of Armenia and our grandparents. While 1.5 million were being marched into the desert, some refused to march. Not trained soldiers, not armies, grandparents, mothers, farmers, people who had never held a weapon, who grabbed picks and shovels and rocks and whatever else they could find and said, not here, not us, not today. Now, I want to take you to Van, April 1915. 1,500 Armenian fighters against 52,000 Ottoman troops. 500 rifles, a few hundred pistols, that's it. They built a workshop that manufactured gunpowder from spent shells. Published a newspaper during the siege. A school marching band played patriotic songs under artillery fire. A school band under shelling playing. They held for 28 days. But the story that will keep you up tonight is Musa Dagh. July 1915, government orders Armenians from 6 villages at the base of a mountain to relocate. A pastor brings word from the routes. Relocation is a death sentence. 60 families obey, they leave, and they die. The rest, 4,000 grandparents, women, and children, choose the mountain. 250 fighters, some with rifles, some with farming tools, some with their bare hands. Grandfathers who had spent their lives tending soil, now stacking that same soil into barricades. Grandmothers carrying children up a mountain with one hand and a weapon in the other. They reached the top, built walls from rocks, and said, "Come get us." And the army came again and again. For 53 days, families held the mountain against a professional military. They were fighting to survive. Could you imagine that? When they were out of almost everything, they ripped bed sheets into 2 giant banners, one with the red cross and one that read, "Christians are in danger." They hung them from the cliffs facing the sea. A French warship spotted the signals. The admiral ordered 5 cruisers to shore without permission from Paris. When Paris saw his telegram, the reply was, "And where is Musa Dagh?" 4,058 people pulled off that mountain. 1,563 of them children, passed hand to hand over the waves. These weren't soldiers, these weren't mothers, grandmothers, grandfathers, teenagers, people who decided that if the Ottoman Empire wanted to put the last Armenian in a museum, they would have to come up the mountain and take them. A French writer said it best, "A nation that does not want to die does not die." And that's exactly what the Armenians showed. They fought to survive. They created collisions. People that had never lifted a weapon were forced to fight and protect their land. And that's what they did. They outlasted the Ottoman Empire until the Ottoman Empire fell. And whatever Armenia we have left today was to that fighting spirit of the Armenian people. People that had never lifted a gun in their life were forced to protect their land. It was a fight of life and death, and they chose life. And they fought, and they fought, and they fought. And today, whatever we have left of the Armenia is because of those heroic people that did not deny Jesus Christ, that did not flee away. They stayed and they fought. Now, after the genocide, the 3 pashas, the architects of the extermination, fled. Talat Pasha, the mastermind, escaped to Berlin, lived under a false name, walked freely in a city that knew exactly who he was. No trial, no punishment, no justice. The world had moved on, just as it always does. but the Armenians had not. A 24-year-old genocide survivor named Solomon Tehlirian, who was a student when he returned back to Armenia, he saw his entire family slaughtered and killed, and he made an oath to get his revenge. He lost his entire family, his mother, his father, his brothers, his sisters, all of them gone. He tracked Talat to the Berlin, rented an apartment across the street from his building, watched him come and go. The man who had ordered the death of 1.5 million people, buying gloves and reading newspapers like a retired professor, like nothing had happened, until the morning of March 15. On the morning of March 15, 1921, Tehlirian followed Talat as he left his apartment, walked up behind him and shot him once in the back of the head. He walked behind him and said, "Talat Pasha." Nobody in Berlin had called him by his name. He turned around and there was Solomon Tehlirian. He took the revenge of his entire people. The man who had said the innocent of today will be the guilty of tomorrow was dead. Before he hit the pavement, Tehlirian didn't run. He had been told not to. He stood over the body and waited for the police. As his trial started, he said these words, "I have killed a man, but I'm not a murderer." What happened next was extraordinary, and the first time in history this happened. The defense didn't deny the killing. Instead, they put the orchestrators of the genocide on trial. For 2 days, a German courtroom heard testimony about the Armenian Genocide, the death marches, the killing squads, the camps, witness after witness, detail after detail. The jury deliberated for 1 hour and said, "Not guilty." A man confessed to killing another human being in broad daylight on a Berlin street, and a German jury said he was right to do it. He took revenge for his nation. The New York Times ran an editorial titled, "They simply had to let him go." And here's the thread that ties everything together. A young Polish Jewish law student read about the trial. It haunted him. He couldn't understand why there was no international law to prosecute what had been done to the Armenians, why one man with a pistol was the only justice available. His name was Raphael Lemkin. He would go on to coin the word genocide. He would spend his life fighting for the UN Genocide Convention. 49 members of his own family would die in the Holocaust later on. The trial of an Armenian assassin in a Berlin courtroom in 1921 directly led to the creation of the word, the law in the international framework we use today to prosecute crimes against humanity. Unfortunately, 1.5 million innocent people had to die, and one man had to take charge for revenge for this law to come to place. One man, one bullet, and the conscience of the world finally started to move. 90% erased from the homeland. Survivors scattered across 100 countries. The largest orphanage in the world was an Armenian orphanage with 25,000 children. And everywhere they landed, the same three things. They built churches, they made schools, they created. Not just survival, preservation. Preservation of language, faith, songs, recipes, stories carried across ocean by people who had nothing left but the memory of their homeland. Today, between 8 to 11 million Armenians live around the world. Without the genocide, there'd be over 20 million. Half the people who should exist don't. But the ones who do, they are changing the world. Now, I need you to pay attention to this part because it's going to change how you see the world. That haunting instrument in the Gladiator soundtrack and the Passion of the Christ, the music you've been hearing throughout this entire video is played by the duduk. It's an Armenian instrument that's made from apricot wood. The MRI machine, invented by an Armenian American, the father of plastic surgery at Harvard, a genocide survivor who rebuilt the faces of soldiers from World War I. Reddit, the platform you might be discussing this video on right now, co-founded by Alexis Ohania, Armenian, married to Serena Williams, one of the most vocal advocates for the genocide recognition in tech. Gary Kasparov, widely considered as one of the greatest chess players of all time. He's an Armenian. There's even a chemical element on the periodic table, element 118, that's named after an Armenian physicist. Color television, the ATM machine, concrete mixture truck. All of these were invented by Armenians. Now, is one of my favorite ones, Kirkorian, whose parents survived the genocide and fled. He was an 8th grade dropout who went on to become one of the richest men in America and built Las Vegas, and afterwards helped rebuild Armenia by donating billions of dollars back to Armenia. Nubar Afeyan, a survivor's grandson, he co-founded Moderna, the vaccine that helped end the pandemic. He said the only advantage of having gone through a genocide is the experience of the fighting spirit and the experience of starting from zero again. From a Nobel Prize winner in medicine in 2021 to Nobel Prize winner in economics in 2024. Both Armenians, 2 Nobel Prizes in the last 5 years. Charles Aznavour, over 180 million records. System of a Down, 4 Armenian Americans who screamed the genocide into the ears of a generation. Cher, one of the best-selling music artists in history, Armenian. Now, love them or hate them, the Kardashians, one of the most followed families on earth. Robert Kardashian, their father, was an Armenian immigrant. You have been surrounded by Armenian contributions your entire life. The websites you browse, the music you listen to, the celebrities you follow, the medical technology keeping your family alive, Armenian fingerprints are all over it. Oh, and did I mention, Armenia also invented winemaking. So that nice glass of wine that you enjoy on a Friday night with a loved one, winemaking was invented by Armenians. And the world's first vineyards were found in the Areni cave that aged 6,100 years. And almost nobody knows, because someone tried to make sure you'd never find out. They wanted to leave one Armenian in a museum. Instead, they built the platforms you scroll on every day. They won Nobel Peace Prizes. They made the symbols you've been hearing your whole life. And on the 100th anniversary in 2015, the Armenian church canonized the victims of 1.5 million people that died, the largest canonization in the history of Christianity. Bells rang 100 times at 7:15 p.m. to 1915 for 1915. They wanted to leave one Armenian in a museum. Instead, 1.5 million of them became saints. You might be thinking, this is history, this is the past. This is something the world has learned from. It hasn't. In 2020, Azerbaijan, backed by Turkey, the same Turkey that denies the genocide, launched a war on Nagorno-Karabakh, a region of Armenians had called home for thousands of years. In September 2023, after a 9-month blockade that starved the population,
the shells are empty. Ambulances don't have gas. Miscarriages have nearly tripled, and the BBC reports that 1/3 of all deaths there are now from malnutrition.
Azerbaijan moved in and ethnically cleansed the entire region. 120,000 Armenians, the entire population, driven from their homes in a matters of a day. Can you imagine that? Some of you lived, your ancestors have lived, your whole history's there, and all of a sudden comes this barbaric group and says you have to leave or else we'll kill you.
This is what ethnic cleansing looks like. Over 100,000 ethnic Armenians fleeing, families carrying only what they can hold, children, the elderly, a community that's lived there for centuries, completely driven out.
An ancient Armenian homeland emptied. Churches, monasteries, cemeteries, all of it left behind. The same pattern, the same playbook. A government decides a group of people shouldn't exist on a piece of land anymore, and the world watches it happen on television and does nothing.
Almost the entire population of 120,000 ethnic Armenians are now gone from Nagorno-Karabakh.
Some onlookers worry it could be the first step toward genocide.
В любой момент можно было умереть.
Боялись, убивают, как взять?
С ними не можем там остаться.
They're arriving feeling very lost. They're still grieving over what they've left behind.
There has been little reaction from the international community.
It was on the news for maybe 48 hours, then the algorithm moved on to the next big story, and so did everyone else. I'm talking about 2023, not 1915, 3 years ago. And here's what's terrifying. Most Americans cannot find Armenia on a map. It's not in our textbooks. The Armenian Genocide, the event that directly inspired the word genocide, the event Hitler cited before launching the Holocaust, is barely taught in American schools. Most students will graduate without ever hearing the phrase, the Armenian Genocide. That's not an accident. That's the silence doing exactly what it was designed to do. If we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it, and we are repeating it again and again. Right now, in real time. The question isn't whether it will happen again. The question is whether you'll notice the next one. The Ottoman Empire killed 1.5 million Armenians. They wanted to leave one alive in a museum. They failed. The Soviets tried to erase the culture. They failed. The world tried silence. It failed. The first Christian nation on earth targeted for total extinction, and they could not be destroyed. People ask me, Why did Michael Franzese choose Armenia for his wine? I'll tell you why. Because Armenia has the fighting spirit. The spirit to survive, the spirit to love, the spirit to create, the spirit to not give up, the spirit to take broken walls and build again, the spirit to take a broken branch and plant a tree again, the spirit to kneel in a collapsed church and pray. They succeeded in killing our flesh, but you can never kill the spirit. You can't kill the spirit who refuses to quit. You can't kill the spirit who decided to fight. You can't kill the spirit of Armenia. And most importantly, you can't kill a spirit that relies on a living God. And that is why the Ottoman Empire failed. That is why every empire that has ever tried to break these people has failed. Because you cannot kill a group like this. You cannot kill a spirit like this. You can scatter it across 100 countries. You can burn its churches. You can starve its children. You can deny its name for 100 years. And it will still be here. It will continue to build churches. It will continue to sing songs, pray prayers. It will continue to give new birth to new creators. That's what survival looks like. That's what against all odds actually means. And that is why the story matters. Not just for Armenians, but for every person on earth who has ever been told that they don't have the right to exist. Just like Michael Franzese was told that at one point in his life, he could not live. He was a dead man. But he had that same fighting spirit. April 24th. Remember the genocide. Share the story with someone else. Because 1.5 million people can't tell their story anymore, but you can tell it for them. And you can ensure the world does not face a tragedy like this again. 1915, never again. But if it does, then the fighting spirit will fight. It will continue to go against all odds. Now, if you're an Armenian parent or grandparent watching this, no history class is going to teach your children what happened. That responsibility is yours. If you don't pass it down, it dies with you, and the story of Armenia dies alongside. If you're a young Armenian, study your history like it's your DNA. Look at what the people before you built from nothing. From ashes, you carry that same blood. You carry that same fighting spirit. You carry that same creator genetic. Do not waste an Armenian life. Be useful and a net positive to society like our ancestors were. If you found success, reach back. Mentor a young Armenian. I had the blessing of being mentored by great Armenians myself who helped shape my career and help what we're building with Franzese Wine today. And if you're not an Armenian and you watch this entire video, I just want to say thank you. That means the world to me, to my people, and to my country. Armenia exists today because non-Armenians chose not to look away. The French admiral at Musa Dagh didn't look away. The German jury didn't look away. You didn't look away. That matters more than you know. So thank you. And now finally, to all my people, love one another. Celebrate each other's success like it's your own. Be the rock someone else needs to lean on. Do not lose the hospitality, the warmth, or the passion for your country, the spirit to create, the spirit to fight. Unite. When Armenians are united, we can move mountains. When we are divided, we are already conquered. Dividing us was the first thing the enemy did. They separated us. Do not do the enemy's work for them. Do not make their job easy. Do not divide yourselves. Unite. And never forget why Armenia became the first Christian nation on earth. People died for that. They were given a choice to deny their faith or died. They chose that. Do not give away freely what they paid for with their lives. We are a Christian nation, but do not let that just be in our history books, but in how we live, how we love, how we pray, and that should be every single day. April 24th. Remember, share, and make sure 1.5 million voices are never silent again.